The Honda Civic SI is an absolute blast. It's powered by a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. It's got beautiful blacked out 18-inch wheels and a lot of other great highlights. And in this video, I'm going to unpack the Honda Civic SI and help you figure out if this car is worth the buy. You're only going to find the Honda Civic with front wheel drive, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. Like if you're really worried about wintertime driving, then you could look at just getting a solid set of winter tires. But I mean, the responsiveness is definitely there. The turning radius in the car, wow, solid. Oh, it's so nice, smooth. Yeah, it's just incredibly responsive. I mean, it's one of the benefits of a sedan is that it's lower to the ground, lower center of gravity, so the risk of a rollover is lower. And it handles well. You're gonna find these beautiful 18-inch blacked out wheels inside of the SI. There's one thing I think that Honda could do inside of the SI to make it stand apart from the rest of the lineup. I mean, the 18-inch wheels are good, but powder coat those calipers. If it was a vibrant electric blue or red, yellow, whatever the case may be, it would just make it pop that little bit more. The front end style of the Civic SI is slightly different from the 24s to the 25s, with no changes coming to the 2026 models at all. You're going to find LED headlamps inside of the ride, and then the forward park sensing system is there on top of that. No front-facing camera though, so you won't find a 360 cam inside of any version of the Civic, regardless of whether it's the SI, the hybrid, the regular gas, etc. Inside of the Honda Civic, you're going to find a few different powertrain choices, but inside of the SI, it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 6-speed manual transmission as well. So putting myself into sport mode specifically for the steering responsiveness here, because it's a manual transmission, we're controlling the shift points. Let's get back up to highway speed here in 3, 2, and... Love that indicator. Beautiful. So the 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometer an hour performance there was good. I love those shift indicator lights that you get inside of the ride. So as you start to redline, I'm sure you saw it there inside of the dash. Fantastic system. That was pretty good. So is it the most powerful car you're going to find with a manual transmission? No, but if you're looking for a manual transmission and you want to stick with the Honda world, this is a really good option. 200 horsepower, 192 pound-feet of torque. How can you complain? So while the Civic SI is not the most powerful vehicle inside of the Honda lineup, it still is pretty peppy, especially for a car that's this small. You're not going to find an engine cover inside of the Civic whatsoever, but it's easy enough to work on these things and upgrade them aftermarket if you really wanted to. You can easily change your oil if you need to. There's easy access to your coolant and then topping up your wiper fluid too. And the warranty inside of the Honda world is pretty solid, so it's industry standard. Your basic is 3-year, 36,000 miles, 60,000 kilometers. Powertrain is 5 years. Hybrid, if you go for the hybrid Civic, which is not available as the SI, you've got 8 years of coverage. But do yourself a favor. I have seen Honda Civics get over 500,000 kilometers. What's that, 380,000 plus miles? You just have to take care of them. Regularly scheduled maintenance and regular oil changes are the big reason why these things can last. The Civic SI does have manual folding side view mirrors that also feature a blind spot system. There's intelligent access. You can tap there to lock the door. After a second, tap in order to unlock. That red theme is all over the place here. But you're going to find these controls across the board for the Civics. Side view mirrors with your window controls, some storage with a trunk release. There's only a single speaker choice available inside of the SI. It's a 12 speaker system, and you've got these beautiful sport bucket seats that are fully manual adjust. All right, but when it comes down to space inside of this ride, so I've got the seat, I'm pretty sure, Yeah, so I ride with as far down as it's gonna go. And overhead, I've got about 3 inches of headspace, so 3.5 inches. 6'4", 6'5", depending on how far back the seat is, should be okay. And the seat comfort is definitely there. It is a cloth seat inside of the SI, so no leatherette or leather seat available. I'd like to see the option to upgrade to a leatherette seat or leather seat, some sort of Recaro. I think would be kind of cool. Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Honda Civic SI. Now, this cluster screen setup is similar to other Honda vehicles, but there are some differences between the different buttons and things like that. If you want to walk through in the infotainment, you'll find it down below, but let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. First thing is that the steering wheel inside of the Civic is going to be manual telescoping. So just down by your left knee, there's a release there, in, out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. There's a button along the very bottom there, and that's for your heated steering wheel, and it's heated all the way around. And there are so many different buttons and stocks, but let's actually start off along the left-hand side. You've got the option of toggling traction control on or off. So if you're getting wheel slippage in the wintertime, you can disable traction control there. And then you can also increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. And then you've got your different stocks that are available. So the stock along the left-hand side is going to be for your lights. You're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time, and that puts you into an auto headlamp mode. Inside of the infotainment system, if you go to your vehicle settings, lighting, auto high beam. So I definitely recommend keeping auto high beams turned on. And the reason why is in the auto mode at nighttime, if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. That's with the auto mode turned on with your auto high beams enabled. But if you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out during the daytime, go to the upper mode there, or I should say the lower headlamp mode, push away in order to turn them on, pull towards you to turn them off. Easy enough, but you're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. Buttons along the left-hand side, so you can change between songs or stations. So if you've got preset set up, you can easily adjust it. You can also do a push and hold there if you wanted it to act as a seek button. So you can do it that way. You can adjust your volume this way if you want to. You can hit the voice command prompt, 97.7 FM.
All right, here's 97.7 FM.
So you can change song stations, things like that, all using your voice too. And then you've also got a little scroll wheel, which is going to let you change between a few different things, which I'll show you as we move into the cluster screen there. The stick along the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. So if you go one up, that's just going to be a quick wipe. If you drop down a level, that goes into the intermittent mode. So you could then use the rocker there to see how fast or slow it's hitting the windshield, and then go into one of the hyper fast modes. And then you're just going to pull towards you in order to get the wiper fluid going. You can toggle the cruise control system on this way. You can see that the system is currently enabled there. And then all you do is just set your speed by hitting down. You can increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, push and hold up or push and hold down in order to increase, decrease at larger increments. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the cancel button to cancel your speed and then push up in order to resume your previously set speed. There are 2 different types of cruise inside of the Civic SI though. There's either adaptive or there's traditional. So if you take the gap adjustment button here, if you push and hold it, that changes you into a traditional cruise, so your old school cruise. So you set it at 80. If the car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. So you just have to be paying more attention. But if you take that same button, you push and hold it again, adaptive cruise is there. And then that's where this gap adjustment button comes into play with 4 unique levels. I'm personally okay on level 1 the majority of the time, but you might want to be on 2, 3, or 4. And that's how close or far you are away from the vehicle that's in front of you. So let's say if you set it at 80, the car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically slow down. They change lanes, you change lanes, it's going to pick you back up to your previously set speed. But here's the thing. The Civic SI is a manual transmission. So as the vehicle has you slowing down, you just have to actively be paying attention because you might have to downshift a few times or upshift, just depending on what's currently going on with your speed. Is it slowing you down, speeding you up, etc.? So you just have to be paying a little bit more attention. But if you want a live demonstration of using the cruise control system and see it in person, how it's used, you'll find a walkthrough down in the description. But you've also got this button here, and this one is a lane keeping system. Like a lane follow assist, I would say, is a better explanation. So the way that this one works is as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it keeps you perfectly balanced in your lane. It's a brilliant system. Like the car is not full self-driving, but with the adaptive cruise control system and the lane following system turned on, it gets very close. But here's the thing, after about 10 seconds or so, if your hands aren't on the steering wheel, you get a little message in the cluster telling you that steering is required. And then you've got your little scroll wheel along both the left and the right side. So let's actually start off. Let's go the left-hand side first. So as you scroll up or down there, you can move between all of your available sources. So Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or you can customize it. So let's say if you wanted to hide or show certain things, maybe you never use AM, you're not going to use USB or Android Auto, Alexa, etc. So now if we were to go back a level, we're now only moving up and down between those sources that we've selected. You can customize the display and you can even show or hide different things. Do you want to show your audio, stopwatch, or nothing? So we can show a little stopwatch there. Lap timers, etc. Where the SI, you got to be able to do some lap times if you really wanted to. And then back down from there in order to customize the display again. Display content, you can have nothing showing up whatsoever. So it's just a naked screen there. So more of like a traditional old school. Or move back in order to audio and clock. Let's go back to audio and clock again. Turn that back on. One along the right-hand side here, this one is going to be for that right part of the display. So you can show, let's go to the top. So you've got your trip counter. You can push the button in the middle there in order to be able to go between trip A versus trip B. If you push and hold it, that's going to let you manually reset. You've got your average speed, same idea, push and hold in order to be able to reset it if you'd like to for A versus B. Back down, you've got your navigation. If you had an active route going, navigate to Tim Hortons.
There's a Tim Hortons 0.3 kilometers away.
So as we've got an active route going, you can see your turn-by-turn directions there. It's not full mapping cluster, but I mean still, it's pretty neat. And then it's going to default just to a basic compass view if you don't have an active route going, strictly for factory navigation. There's your driver attention warning. So this is currently disabled, but if it was enabled, you start to veer over too many times with that signaling, nodding off, etc. Eventually that counter is going to go up. It's going to ding at you to tell you that you probably take a break. You've got some different gauges here. See what kind of power you're currently using. You've got the G meter there too. If people are sitting down, it's who's got their seatbelt plugged in. Oil life is there, all of your different safety systems. So if you wanted to turn off your lane keeping system, your blind spot system, or your brake controls, the parking sensors, or your collision systems, you can disable any of these different settings. I personally recommend keeping them on. The only time I'd say disable them, if you're going on a track. Otherwise, keep them enabled. From there, you can have no content. So in just a second there. There we go. You can see there that you've got more of that traditional look. So you can have the traditional just empty on both sides if you want to, or push and hold again in order to be able to change between miles or kilometers. You can change it through the infotainment system if you want to, but it's kind of neat that you've got that option. Then you can customize the display, so even changing out the gauge display. So we've got our classic round. You can go to more of a bar look. Round minimalist, which kind of gets rid of a few different things. And then you've got your bar minimal there too. So I'm personally not a big fan of the bar. I normally keep it on the round, but matter of preference there, just from a basic style perspective. And then, do you want to hide or show certain things? So if you're never going to use your range info, your speed and time, if you don't care about your turbo gauges, your throttle, things like that, you'd have the flexibility of disabling any one that's not gray. So grayed out ones have to stay there, but you could adjust out. So as you move up and down, it's which of those options are showing as you go. This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Honda Civic SI and a few other Honda models too. But let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. First thing to point out is that you've got a few buttons along the outside of the screen. So your basic home screen there, if you're on any screen, just push this, that's going to bring you back home. And then as you start diving into additional menus, so system, etc., you can hit the back button or back home from there. You've got your volume rocker. You can push in order to be able to mute audio. You can also change between songs and stations this way. And then you've got a tray along the outside here. You've got the flexibility of customizing these icons out. So if you just do a push and hold, that's going to make these ones loose. So this one is always going to be there regardless, but these other ones can be adjusted. So you've got maps, AM, FM, well, FM there. You've got Apple CarPlay, the display, and then you can add in an additional one. So maybe you wanted to have your trip counter there. You'd have that flexibility. You could then overwrite any of these spots too. So if you wanted to have your compass view there instead, you've got the flexibility of adjusting that out. You want Google Maps, if you want other things, all you're doing is just a drag and drop in order to overwrite any of these options. So let's just put the trip counter back there and we're good. And then you just tap back in order to lock that into place for this one. And then you can also adjust these icons. So if you push and hold it, that makes it loose, and then push and hold again in order to be able to drag the icons around into other screens, edit home or shortcuts, or lock those changes into place. You can see the current station that you're listening to along the top. You can tap this in order to get to this option where you can change profile, look at your clock settings, etc. Changing profiles, so I definitely recommend setting up different profiles inside the vehicle for multiple people. There are security options that are available that I'll touch on as we dive deeper into the screen. And then you can adjust the time by clicking there, so just your clock face, hitting here to adjust your date and time, or that main clock face that we were just looking at. So do you prefer digital time, analog, etc., or add in additional clock faces right there. And then there are so many different options available here. So you've got Google Maps. So this screen is based off of the Android operating system, and that means that you can download additional apps to the vehicle if you'd like, which I'll show you in just a second. But you've got Google Maps built in. You can search for an address by hitting that, so your voice command prompt. You can search by GPS coordinates, point of interest icons, things like that. You can hit here if you wanted to be able to look at different things. So do you prefer that satellite view? Do you prefer regular view there? Do you want to see 3D buildings? Do you want to avoid different things on your route? So highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. A lot of different options, including downloading offline maps. The big benefit there is that if you're going somewhere where you won't have an active connection, Google Maps would still work. You can mute out all of your notifications. So do you just want alerts? Do you want to get alerts and turn-by-turn directions, or do you want to just mute out? You can change up the heading view. So you've got a few different options there. There's full pinch to zoom capabilities. You can zoom in and out this way, recenter it back on you. This icon lets you sign into your Google account. So if you've been on your phone, whether that's Android or iPhone, with your phone logged into your Gmail account and you've been searching for Google Maps, it would essentially pull all of those addresses right into the screen. Navigate to Tim Hortons.
There's a Tim Hortons 0.3 kilometers away. Want to navigate?
There we go. So I selected one that's a bit further away because you can see different routes to get there. So you can start, or you can tap this in order to get to those different route options. You can avoid different things on the route that you're taking, or hit back to either start or add in an additional stop. So I went to Tim Hortons there. Maybe you also wanted to go to a gas station. You'd have that flexibility. So you can search by point of interest icons there. So let's just select a random one here, add in a stop, and now you can either keep on going. So you can hit done, or you can hit edit now. And if you hit edit, you'd be able to adjust out. So maybe you wanted to fill up gas and then grab a coffee. You could go vice versa, or add in multiple destinations and then just tap done. Once you're ready to go, hit the little start icon, and you can see there, we are now actively going. So your route is active. You can have the little X button there, and what that's going to do is either let you remove the next stop or completely remove navigation. So if you didn't want to grab coffee anymore, you can just exit out from there, and you've got your addresses that you've previously saved. You can tap the little up arrow if you wanted to hide the search box in order to get that fuller screen map. But that's using navigation. It's really simple to use. You've got your phone that are available there too, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support. So let's go ahead and add in a phone. No phones have been connected, so we're going to connect it to a new device, or go to the device list if you've connected the phone previously. So if you just hit search there, it'll show you if you have a device that you've previously searched for. But on this one, what we're going to do, start off on the iPhone side of things. Just going to Bluetooth and looking for Honda Civic, which showed up. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no. And you can stop here. So we're connecting over Bluetooth, so you'd be able to make phone calls and also stream audio. But there is also Apple CarPlay support inside of the ride, and it is wireless. It's backwards compatible, so you can use a USB-C cable. Plug yourself in down the middle if you want to, but let's go ahead and enable Apple CarPlay. And we're just waiting a second here. Do you want to use CarPlay with the Civic? Yes, we want to do that. And look at that. We are fully set up. You can hit this in order to get to a little split screen there, back to your fuller screen option. And then you've got your home screen here. So you've got your time and your connection level, along with apps that were last opened. So this is always going to be whatever map was open last, whichever audio application, miscellaneous, your battery level, into your icon view or your home screen, or you can just swipe across. This home screen is kind of customizable. So you'll always have whatever map was open last. Your search box and audio box will be defaulted, stretched across the top. But if you have a calendar notification that's coming up today that hasn't passed yet, that would show up here. If there is no calendar notification, those two boxes would be stretched across the top. There are so many different options, but if you can't even get to this point because CarPlay is not working, check down in the description of this video for some common CarPlay fixes that you can try. There's a voice command prompt on the steering wheel, so this one here. So if you just tap it, that's going to bring up the assistant for the vehicle. But if you take that same button, if you do a long button push and hold, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. From there, just hit back home and back again. You've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that are available inside of this ride. I'm personally a bigger fan of Waze, but it's going to come down to a matter of preference. There's no pinch to zoom capabilities on the Apple CarPlay side of things, unfortunately. But I mean, you can go here, you can mark things off. People are pretty good at marking off speed traps. You can let people know if there are speed traps, crashes, hazards, things like that. YouTube Music is available, and it's strictly going to be YouTube Music, so you don't have the option for video playback through Apple CarPlay, unfortunately. But you've got podcasts that are available, all sorts of different apps. You can kind of customize the look here too. So if you tap settings, you can turn on driving focus if you want to, or you can adjust out the wallpaper. So if there's a color scheme that works better for you, you can adjust it out to any of those other color schemes too. Then you can also adjust out the icon layout here. So all you're going to do on your phone, go to settings, general, and then CarPlay. Just find your vehicle. You can forget it. You can customize it there too. So maybe you wanted to have a map application along the very top. You can do that. Anything with a minus next to it, you can actually remove it from the screen. So let's say if you've played around with this a little bit too much, you don't like what you've done. Along the top side of the phone, you can tap reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default icon layout there. You can hit the home button in order to get back to the home screen. You can tap into CarPlay there, or back into CarPlay there to get back to CarPlay. Or if you were to tap Honda, that brings you back to the home page there. You can go here into your general settings, connections, manage devices, and then we've got the iPhone that's been connected over CarPlay. You can disconnect from CarPlay, which is just going to set you back up over Bluetooth instead. So Bluetooth is available there for phone calls and for media. CarPlay is hooked up over Wi-Fi, and that's going to give you the same functionality as Bluetooth with extra features. You can tap on the phone there again in order to look at Bluetooth, CarPlay, disconnect, or delete. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Civic SI. Setting up Android devices is pretty simple too. So if you weren't on this manage screen, back to the home screen, just go to General, Connections, Manage, Connect a new device. And then on your phone, you're just waiting for Honda Civic to show up. When it does, perfect, PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow access to messages? And then it's going to say contacts as well. This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And you can stop here. So the benefit there is that you're connected over Bluetooth, so making phone calls and for streaming audio. If there are multiple devices connected, it's going to ask if you want it to be the priority device, so who's it going to try to connect to first. You've also got Android Auto support, so if it's not prompting you to connect to Android Auto, just tap the Android Auto button and hit yes. And starting Android Auto, it'll take a second. On your phone, it's asking, well, it's saying welcome to Android Auto, so just hit continue. And look at that, we are fully connected there. So you can see your basic Android Auto home screen there. Swipe across. You can tap this in order to get to a little icon view. Tap back home there. You've got your little microphone there, so you can hit there in order to be able to turn on your voice command prompt. You can do a long button push and hold in order to be able to toggle the voice command prompt on for your phone on top of that. You've got Google Maps along with a series of other icons, and then along the bottom right side, it's your current time, connection, and battery level. You can go full screen Google Maps, so if you hit the Google Maps icon there, it's going to bring you full screen. You've got full pinch to zoom capabilities, and then your basic options there. So it works the exact same way as using Google Maps right inside of the infotainment system. Now, if we go back for a second and back to the icon view, You can see there, I've got Waze installed here and it's actively showing, but if you've got Waze on your Android device and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for some common fixes that you can try. And then you've also got the flexibility of customizing these icons. So on your device, what you're going to do is just search for Android Auto. You're going to hit Android Auto settings and then look at Customize Launcher. From there, all you're going to do is just drag and drop. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add it in or remove it just by hitting that. And then you can just move around as necessary for the changes here to come into effect. Hit the home icon, General, Connections, Devices. You're just going to disconnect from Android Auto, reconnect to Android Auto, and the changes that we've made here have now come into effect. You can hit the home icon there, jump back into, what do we got here? Android Auto. If you wanted to add Android Auto there, you could. Just do a push and hold until these icons are loose. And then all you're going to do is find Android Auto. And then you could just drag in order to overwrite it if you'd like. Going back to your general connections and devices, we've got either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so you can't be hooked up to both of them simultaneously. You can easily swap devices though, or set a priority. So if both phones are in the vehicle, who's it going to try to connect to first? If there are multiple people driving your car, your best bet though is just to create additional user profiles there, and then just set each phone up to each individual profile. From here, we can tap the phone, disconnect, or completely delete. So let's delete that one, that's been deleted, and here, let's delete and delete. And you're set to go, but that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Civic SI. If you tap on Options, that's going to give you the option of turning Bluetooth off completely so you can't even connect over Bluetooth. You can say who's going to be the priority device if multiple phones are connected. You can even change the vehicle name. So if you don't want the default Bluetooth name to be Honda Civic, you can customize it there. And then you can also set the default look for your smartphone size, so either normal or wide. And from here, you've got AM. So let's actually go through all of our radios, so AM, FM, etc. You can tap here in order to change out your different sources. So FM, AM, USB with MP3s or other audio files, Bluetooth audio, CarPlay, etc. So just tapping through. You can tune to a station this way if you want to. So if you know your station, you can also use your voice. 102.1 FM.
Got it. This is 102.1 FM.
So you can easily tune that way, and then you can see all of your presets along the bottom. Now what you could do if you want, push and hold in order to be able to remove a favorite, or you can replace it with another station. And you can do that for all of these options. So just push, and then from there you can adjust it. So if you wanted to, oh, where was I? There. Once it's loose, you can actually move them around if you wanted to customize it that way, or you can remove the favorite or replace it or add it to the home screen. So you can have a station showing up directly on this screen if you want to. From there, you can seek out stations this way. You can just do a generic scan. You can see all the stations that are available. So if you're new to an area, you're not sure what stations you can listen to, you'll see some stations have multiple options listed, and that's just because it broadcasts digitally. So you can see if there are clearer signals that are available. You can refresh the list there if you want. Scanning, as I mentioned, or hopping in here to see your radio stations. You can toggle HD radio on or off, and then your RDS information, that is this info. So whether or not that one shows up. Tapping menu again, and if we go to our sound settings, that's where you can adjust things out, like the bass, mid-range, and treble. So this is terrible. Literally just picked this car up. So what I'd recommend, what I've found historically in the Civic, the treble up a point or two, the bass up a few points, tends to give pretty good audio in my opinion. But what I'd recommend, play one of your favorite songs and then adjust these out until it sounds perfect for you, and then back to lock it into place. Do you want it focused on the full vehicle, just on the driver, front or rear? Or you can do a fine balance and fade there if you want to, for where the audio is going to be focused on primarily. And then you've also got your speed compensated volume. So as you're going faster or slower, it can automatically increase the volume for you. And then if we were to go to AM, it's the same thing. So you've got all of your same basics there down the bottom, but you can see your AM stations and your FM stations are separated. There's no Sirius XM support, but you'd be able to hook your phone up if you have the Sirius XM app, whether it's iPhone or Android, to listen to Sirius XM that way. But that's using audio inside of the ride. You've got your Play Store that's available. One of the benefits of logging into the Play Store, you can download additional apps. So I would download Waze to the vehicle directly. All you would do is just sign in. There's a QR code that would pop up. Just scan the QR code to sign in and start downloading apps that way. Some apps are free, some apps aren't. But once you signed in there, a benefit, as I was mentioning, if you're on Google Maps, it's going to bring any address that you've searched for on Google Maps directly to the infotainment system here, assuming you're signed in on your phone. Great system overall. Apple CarPlay's there, you've got Alexa, your Google Assistant's there too, so you can activate your Google Assistant a bunch of different ways. There are a series of vehicle settings and general settings, which I'll touch on last. You've got your profile set up too, so you can change profiles or manage profile accounts, but this is the big one, your settings. Profile locks, you can add in a PIN or a password. So if there were multiple people driving the vehicle, you can set up some additional security. Even if you're the only person driving, it would definitely be worth it to set this up so people can't just look through your addresses that you've saved and things like that. You can clear credentials. You can adjust out your individual account there too. There's Bluetooth audio. You can look at your trip computer on top of that. So with your current drive, you can see what you've gotten for your range, trip A versus trip B counters there too. And then if you tap menu, you can say, when do you want trip A versus B to be reset? Do you want to manually reset every time the car's turned off or when you fully refuel the vehicle? So if you're using it for business, you can adjust that out or change up your trip history so you can look at it through the infotainment system here. But on the steering wheel, if we go up and down here, up to the very top, you've got your range. If you were to tap this button in the middle now, you can change between your A versus B counter there too. And then if you push and hold it, that's going to give you the flexibility of being able to manually reset that way. So you can look at your trip counters either through the infotainment system or through the cluster screen. You've got USB audio available, AMs available. You can check for system updates. There's a Wi-Fi hotspot available. You do need to have a data plan in order for this to actively work. You can adjust out your clock by tapping clock or by hitting the clock along the top. That brings you back here where you can adjust out your date and time or different clock faces. There's Honda Link, there's your compass, which is just the direction that you're facing. You can adjust out your display there too. So do you want to be brighter, darker, etc. Toggle the display off. And then you can look at all apps, and that's all of the apps that are on the home screen there. So you can see all of these options here. You can deselect different ones. So if you don't want different things showing up, you can get rid of them. Pretty nice. Which means that next up, all of the vehicle settings, and there are so many different settings you need to know about. There are a series of different driving assistance settings. So these are just your basic driver safety settings. Do you want to get different warnings if you're getting closer to an obstacle in front of you as you drive? It can give you a little message inside of the cluster with beeps, things like that. Your lane keeping assist is there too. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it can beep at you, nudge you back into your lane. Your blind spot system is available there too. So do you want to get a warning if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side? So that's going to highlight to let you know. So you can get a visual alert where it just highlights along each side view mirror or wherever somebody's in the blind spot, or you can get an audible alert on top of that. Do you want to get your traffic sign showing up inside of the cluster screen? And then do you want to get a warning if you're going a little bit too fast? I'm not a fan, so there is a threshold that shows up. So if you are going over the speed limit by how much before you get a warning letting you know that you're going a little bit too fast? Not a fan. Your driver attention monitor is there with a few different options. So there's nothing tactile or audible and tactile. So if you start to, let's say, veer over too many times without signaling, your riding lines, etc., eventually it's going to either shake the steering wheel on top of that, and then give you a little chime letting you know that you should probably take a break. If you're going distance driving, that one actually can be pretty useful. There is a rev match system inside of the ride too, and I recommend keeping it on. So this is the SI, which means that you've got a manual transmission. So as you go to shift down, what's going to happen is the RPMs are going to pop up in order to make it a more seamless transition as you're changing gears out. It sounds really cool, and is a really neat feature too. Your rear park sensing system, you can toggle that off, so that's the beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles. You've got your meter setup available there too with your trip A versus trip B counter. So you'll see a few of these different settings shown in a few different places. Do you want to get your rev indicator there too? Turn by turn in the display. So as you have factory navigation going, do you want your turn by turn directions showing up there? Yay, nay. With your rear seat reminder, if you've opened up the second row doors and then you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to tell you to check the back seats. with your speed units, do you want to be in either kilometers or miles? So you can see that. It's one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster, is that as you adjust it out, it easily changes everything around for you. And then you want to get a shift up alarm. So if you're redlining it a little bit too much, the car is going to tell you that you should shift, but you can toggle that off. So if you want to just keep on redlining, you technically have the capability to be able to do it. There are some different options for your key. So when you go to unlock, do all doors become unlocked, or is it just the driver's door? So good from a safety perspective to put just driver's door, unless you're coming out of the gym, etc. It can be a little bit of a pain to have to keep on double pressing to unlock. When you go to unlock, do you want to get flashes, beeps, etc.? And there's this lockout prevention, which means that you can't lock the key fob in the vehicle accidentally. Different options for lights, starting off with auto high beam, which I recommend keeping yourself in the auto high beam mode. You can control your dimming for the interior and exterior. So when you go to lock the vehicle, do the interior lights stay on for how long? And then the exterior lights too, do they just turn off or do they stay on for up to 60 seconds? And you've got options for your door. Do you want your doors to automatically unlock, lock, etc., and at what point? So unlock when you open up your driver's door, when you turn the vehicle off, etc. There's a walk-away auto lock. So if you've forgotten to lock the doors, walk away from the vehicle, it's going to lock them for you. And then you've got a few other things like remote window control. Let's hop outside and I'll show you how these things work. If you haven't locked the door, it will auto lock for you as you walk away. Getting into the trunk of the ride, so just push and hold in order to be able to unlock. There's a button right there that you can push on top of that. And then one thing is that when the car door is locked, the fuel door is also locked. And then you can also use the key fob for a pretty neat trick. So what you're going to do is push and hold the unlock button twice and push and hold on the second one. So you're just going to hold. So you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Watch this. So you release it and it's going to stop. So you just push and hold again in order to continue the process. But it's not only opening up all 4 windows, it also opens up the sunroof. Now, in some international models, you might be able to roll them back up by pushing and holding the lock button twice. Unfortunately, that's not the case in North America. So those are some pretty useful settings. I like the walk-away lock, very useful. With your climate control setup, when you start the vehicle, do you want your driver's seat automatically to come on with your passenger seat there too? So when you start the vehicle up, do you want your heated seats to come on, driver, passenger side? You've got a series of individual settings. So down the middle here, you've got a little rocker switch, so you can move between your 3 modes. So there's individual, sport, or there's normal mode there too. Normal is just going to be your day-to-day driving. Sport is going to give you just a better overall drive. And the reason why is because as we adjust out our individual modes, so we can see here, you can customize the engine responsiveness, your steering feel, things like that. So your steering in the sport mode stiffens up, but you'd have the flexibility of adjusting that out for your individual mode. So maybe individual, you prefer that sporty performance, but you don't like the steering wheel being quite as tight. You can adjust it out to that sport or normal mode. How do you want the engine to sound, etc. And then you've also got your gauge look. So your gauge look is either normal or sport. So you can have it permanently lock in. So as you move into your individual mode, you can get the sport look. So you can kind of customize it and you can kind of see just very subtle changes in the cluster as you move between different modes. But it is nice that you can customize an individual mode there. And then there's some maintenance info. So you've got your oil life, engine oil, etc. You can default everything back to the default factory settings there too. And then you've got a series of general settings. So your system information, again, adjusting out your date and time. So set date and time manually. So these are grayed out because you're in the auto mode. So if you deselect, you can manually set your date and time. I just recommend keeping that auto. You can set your date or your time individually there too. Let's go back to automatic there. And back, you've got your time zone. So that one's grayed out, same idea, because we're in the auto mode. The only time I'd recommend changing this is if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it constantly flips you back and forth one way or the other. And then you can adjust out your date format or your time format. So do you prefer to be in that military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. You can adjust out your language for both the infotainment system here or for the cluster. So if you wanted the cluster to be French, but you wanted this display to be English, you can change that out. The sensitivity of this display, you can do a full factory reset, but the downside there is it's going to get rid of everything on the infotainment system. Phones that you've connected, addresses that you've saved, profiles you've set up, things like that. There is a way to do a soft screen reboot that I'll show you towards the end of this video. And back, you've got your connection options, which we've already seen. There's some basic privacy information, so apps, ad managers there. The ad manager, someone pointed out, is if you're using Google Maps, if you've got an end destination, occasionally you might see a recommended stop pop up. Not crazy about that idea, but I mean, you rarely see it. That's where using your phone really comes into play there too. Do you want to share data with Honda? Yay, nay. And then there's some other basic privacy options. There are some options for your display where you can adjust out the brightness, the contrast, the black levels, toggle it off, back on again. Your basic sound settings, which we've already seen, so adjusting your treble, mid-range, and bass. There are some sound volumes, so these are individual system volumes. Do you want your voice recognition? So as you go to make certain changes there, do you want to have that recognition volume high, low? Your system sound, so different beeps on the system. Do you want to get that? Yay, nay. Your navigation, and then your sound volume, or your phone volumes there too. You can look at your camera there, so your rear wide camera with your guidelines. So do you want it fixed or dynamic? So as we go into reverse there, so you've got your fixed guidelines in place. I wish that camera was a slightly better quality, but it's there. So you've got your fixed guidelines, and then as you go to rotate, you've got your dynamic guidelines there too. So you can show one or the other if you'd like to. And then you can also show your cross traffic monitor. So if anybody's coming perpendicular, so from the right or the left side, it can let you know that there's somebody there. There's your voice control. Your default app is going to be Google. You can have Alexa or nothing, which means that you hit the voice command prompt and nothing happens. But I'd say at least the Google Assistant would make sense. Oh, and then with your Google Assistant, you've got some other things. You can adjust out the language there. Do you want it to have it listen for, hey, Google? And that's going to bring up your voice command prompt that way. Do you want message summaries and things like that to play? You've got security info, which we've already seen. So adding in a profile lock, very useful from a general safety perspective. There's some basic Google settings, nothing exciting, and then some advanced settings, which these are going to be advanced for most people. A little bit too advanced, but I mean, you've got some basics here. So system updates, languages, and then some reset options. So you can reset the network info. So if Apple CarPlay, Android Auto aren't working, you can try resetting those. You can reset all of your app preferences too. And then let's say if Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto's not working, maps aren't working, things like that, you can do the full factory reset that I was showing you or that other reset. But the downside of doing those resets, especially the factory one, that's going to get rid of all of your data. So what you're going to do, take the home button there instead, and you're just going to push and hold it for a few seconds until that screen pops up. Cancel, reboot, or safe mode. So safe mode is going to essentially disable any apps that you've downloaded to the vehicle. You can do that if you've downloaded apps. If not, just do a basic reboot instead, and that's going to be the same thing as if you were to do a restart on your phone. That should solve the majority of issues that you're facing. So like I said, if Apple CarPlay's not working, Android Auto's not working, things like that, you can try that first. That tends to solve the majority of issues that you might be facing inside of that screen. If that doesn't work, the next step would be to try the full factory reset, or you can try that network reset that I showed you earlier. We go home here, okay, so let's get rid of that and cancel for a second. So if you go into your general settings, system, factory reset would be the next step. And then the other option that you can try is back in your advanced settings, system, reset, and then just reset the network. So you've got a few different ways that you can try to do a reset in order to get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto not to start working, or if you're running into any other problems. Got your basic vent controls there. The honeycomb design, I wasn't a fan when I first saw it in the Civic, but it's kind of growing on me a little bit, especially with that nice little red highlight. You've got heated seats available inside the ride, so no ventilated. So that's one thing that I'd like to see available as an option. Leather or leatherette seats with the option for ventilated, I think would be amazing. But there is going to be dual zone climate control inside the ride, 2 USB Type-C ports with 12 volt, then a wireless charge pad. There's the auto start stop system. So that's the one where if you come down to a complete stop, the engine might turn off. There's your electronic parking brake. So all you do is pull up to turn it on, just on the brake pedal, push down in order to turn it off. And then there's also your brake hold. With the brake hold setting, if you've come down to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake and the clutch pedal. As long as you're in neutral, it's going to hold you in place. If you are still in gear with that brake hold setting on, you just make sure you've got the clutch in. But if you are stopped, you just throw yourself into neutral there, take your foot off the brake. Well, obviously without the parking brake on, the car just wouldn't move. So it's pretty good from a basic safety perspective. It is kind of useful, especially if you're learning how to drive the manual transmission, because if you're going uphill, having the brake hold on can be a little bit easier to go. You've got 2 cup holders there, teeny little glove box. You can actually fit a lot of stuff inside that box, more than wrist deep. Then that nice glossy highlight. So again, that follows through the door, the vents all the way through. The glove box here, non-lockable. Decent amount of space in that box. Up overhead, there's an auto-dimming rear view mirror that can be turned off if you want to. So if there's a donkey behind you at night with their high beams on, it's going to dim down to make it easier to see. You've got basic controls here for your lights, and then you've got a sunglasses holder first, and then you've got control for a little sunshade for sunroof. Look at that. Single button press. Yeah, opens it up the full way. But that just opens things up nicely. And there you've got a little vanity mirror with lights built in. There's no ticket receipt holder on the outside or on the in there. And then this stretches across. That's going to block all the sun. That'll hit your face. There's a little assist handle there. That's the same along the passenger side. And then the overall visibility. I mean, that's great. I'm not going to run into any issues there whatsoever. Oh, that's good. All right, hold on. Okay, perfect. Always like, oh, do I? Just for safety. And second row of the ride. Because this is the SI, heated second row seats, and it's strictly the outboard seats, so the middle seat would never be heated. You've got your window control, some door storage, and let's see here. So with the driver's seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive, in the second row, I've got a good amount of knee space, foot space, on top of that, and then head space. Yeah. I can fit, I've got to hunch a little bit, yeah, because sitting fully upright, my head's touching. So 5'10", maybe to safely sit in the second row of the Civic. Fitting 3 full-size adults would definitely be tight. There's a little hump in the middle. So if we were to do it, yeah, no, oh, actually, my head is like bouncing off the top. So if you've got shorter family members, friends, etc., shorter distance trips should be okay. You've got your anchor points there if you need it. Top tether points are right up high. On top of that, if you've got kid seats, there's no handle to get to the cup holder, so you just got to jam some fingers in there in order to get access to them. I'd like to see something to kind of grab, or you can, easy enough. From there, you've got a mat pocket just behind the passenger side, nothing along the driver. You're going to find 2 USB Type-C charge ports down there too. And up overhead, little assist handle, cabin control lights, and then assist handle with a hook along the driver's side. But it's pretty simple in the second row of the Civic SI. You're going to find LED tail lamps inside of the rear end of the Civic SI. And walking up to the car later on at night looks pretty nice. You're going to find the reverse park sensing system inside of this ride, along with the backup camera. And then from an overall design perspective, you've got this nice little black deck lid spoiler that shoots all the way across. Obviously a ton of aftermarket options for different wings and things like that. There's dual tip exhaust inside of this ride. And then getting into the trunk of the Civic can be done a few different ways. You can use the key fob to do it. There is a button on the driver's side door. And then just underneath the Honda badge, there's also a button there that you can push in order to open up that trunk door. And feature-wise back here, nothing off to the right side or the left. This one has one of the added protection packages to get the rubberized tray. Then lifting up the storage tray, you are going to find a mini spare tire inside of this ride, along with the jack stand. And then there's the white spigot. So if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can, pop that in first. So the tire's there, the jack stand is there. So if you ever pop a tire, puncture a tire, you can try to change it out yourself, but you do also have access to Honda roadside assistance. So they can help out with tire changing, fuel delivery, lockout winching services, and a few other things. Folding down the second row seats inside of the Civic, the release has to be done from the trunk. So you can fold down the left or the right independently, pull tabs to do it, and then if you can reach it, push through in order to drop those seats down. And there actually is a solid amount of space inside of the boot of the Civic. The cargo measurements that you're looking at here, the ones that are specifically behind the first row, I go from right where that trunk door would close to just in behind the little console armrest between the first row seats. So if that driver's seat, passenger seat were forwards or backwards, you gain or lose a little bit of extra space. So there's a good amount of overall space. And then you've got those inner dimensions there too, just in case you need it. Filling up fuel inside of the Civic is done just along the driver's side. And when the car door is locked, the fuel door is also locked, and it's got a capless system there too. Looking at the fuel quality inside of this ride, there's the minimum manufacturer's recommendation and then the requirement. So the recommendation inside of the Civic SI is to use a 91 octane. So do you need to use one? The minimum requirement is at least an 87, so you can't go E85. I would probably go with like a mid-grade, an 89. 91 octane in a 1.5 liter engine, you'll notice a bit of a difference, but it's not going to be something like if you were looking at the Mustang Coyote 5 liter V8. And then looking at the fuel economy inside of the Civic Si, it's a manual transmission and it's front wheel drive. So that usually equates to excellent overall fuel economy. When I picked this car up, it's about a 60-ish kilometer trip. And going on that 60-kilometer trip, just cruising on the highway, I was averaging about 5.2 liters per 100, which is around 45 miles per gallon. The hybrid Civic is going to give you better overall economy and slightly more power, but the manual transmission inside of this thing is such a blast to drive at the same time. So whether you decide to go for the SI or the hybrid is going to depend on what you care about. Driving a manual transmission if you live in a downtown core is absolutely a pain, especially if you're in a lot of stop and go traffic. But there's just something about shifting that I absolutely love. Overall, I'm going to say that I do really enjoy the Honda Civic SI. Not quite as powerful as the hybrid, but still, the power that you get from it is fantastic. And then with it being a manual transmission too, like that's just icing on the cake. It's so rare to find a good manual transmission car nowadays, so I think I like this one quite a bit. And some on-road handling here. Oh, love that rev matching. On-road handling here. It's a peppy little bugger. Like, it really is. The 1.5 turbo is solid. No complaints there getting up to highway speed. When you look at the overall road noise, so I'm going the highway speed right now, so 100. It's a little bit noisy in the cabin, but I mean, it's nothing out of the ordinary that you wouldn't find in most other cars too. Yeah, I'd say no difference at all in road noise between the SI versus the regular Civic. So I was in the hybrid a couple months back. And one thing I love is that, so the Civic has fantastic driving technology. So you've got regular cruise control and adaptive cruise control. So I'm using the adaptive right now. And there's also the lane keeping system. So it's more like a lane follow assist. Yeah, there we go, steering required. So you can keep your hands off the steering wheel for up to 10 seconds before you get that message, letting you know that steering is required. But it's a phenomenal system all around. And that's one thing I wasn't sure how the cruise control system, the adaptive cruise specifically, how well that would work with a manual transmission. But it is seamless. If there's a car in front of you that's slowing down, yours automatically brakes. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your set speed. The only thing, since this is a manual transmission, as the car's slowing down, with the adaptive cruise system going, you just have to be paying attention and then downshift as necessary. This is fun. Fun little car. And that was everything you needed to know about the Honda Civic SI. You can find all of the build details for this one down in the description, with links off to Honda Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care.